Welcome, Dan Banks.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing a little bit better than spectacular. I'm very excited to be here.
Good stuff. And what have you done to your hands? Come on. Is
All
this
right.
so
Yeah,
spectacular?
I know. I was thinking, I was deliberating, do I take it off or not? So I was at the gym this morning and I've ripped open my hands doing some bar work and stuff. So it's not a pretty sight. So I've just, taped them up for now. Look like I'm about to go to a boxing match.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, we getting in the ring then?
Excuse my hands.
You brand yourself a lot with training, and that's a big part of who you are and what you do, isn't it?
Well, it's a big part of transformation. It's a big part of standards. I mean, I know you do the same as well.
I do.
So I think, look, whenever anyone wants to change their life, I think it can start with physical body, number one. I think how you show up in the gym, how you do something is how you do everything. I think funny enough, I was training with a friend of mine today who's a very successful real estate guy, and he's just moved over here, and we were doing what part of the thing was to do 100 burpees, and he kept giving up. And one thing I told him is, listen, just don't give up, just keep moving, and don't judge yourself on where you should be, but just keep moving and getting better, and understand you're breaking barriers now because it's your mind that wants to give up. So I think that when you start the day doing fitness and stuff, and if you can program to break through the barriers, that shows up in life as well, you know, and business.
And so looking at your Instagram profile, you've branded yourself as a financial and mindset coach.
Yep.
What does that actually mean?
Okay, so firstly, I think 90% of everything is mindset. So any challenges we've got, I've spent a lot of time with the likes of Tony Robbins and other coaches, right? The biggest chokehold on any business is the mindset, is the psychology of the business owner. And if you can understand that, everything that we are as humans, everything we have in our life and don't have, look, you've seen the rags to riches story 1,000,000 times over. That's a mindset that takes that person from where they were to where they are. It's not the resources they have. It's not luck. It's that there's a decision that's being made. So our mind, for most of us, is a prison. So when you work on someone's mindset, everything opens up. In terms of financial freedom, it's about structuring business and income. Look, some people get up looking for a job. A job is generally never going to give you financial freedom. So if you want to be in business, what type of business can enable you? Because we all start in a business to have financial freedom. That's the idea. One day we'll be successful, then we'll get to enjoy it. And if you know many successful people, they're prisoners to their business. They're prisoners to their business, right? Because they don't understand how to do it. So again, you've got to understand what sort of business. Where's the scalability? If you go on Dragon's Den, for example, and they look at if they're going to invest money, how scalable is it? Some businesses aren't scalable. That business is never going to give you financial freedom. So it's understanding that. It's understanding how to put systems in place that enables you to step back from, so that you can actually enjoy your business and you're not a prisoner to the business.
So let's pretend I'm a client.
Yeah.
And I come to you.
Yeah.
How do you work with me practically?
Okay. So first and foremost, I would do a discovery call. So I do a free discovery call at 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just to see if we're a good fit. The second thing then we do, the onboarding call is a deep dive into you. And I work with people on their mindset, on their business, and on their own personal finances, because they're two different things. Yeah. And just in general, making great decisions. So we'll look at everything across the board of their business and their personal finances. And then we come up with a plan. And then I would meet with my clients twice a month. And we come up with a plan, and then we review and adjust, and I hold them accountable. And the biggest thing is, with a lot of things, there's two key things. It's making the complicated simple. So whenever I would advise you on something, it's not like I'm giving you what would be rocket science. It's simple steps. But when you're so busy and you're in your own head with your business and 1,000,000 things that's all muddled together, it's creating clarity, creating a plan, and then creating simple steps that I'm going to then hold you accountable to. And those two things, in making it simple and having clarity, and then having accountability, they're the two major things that shift a person and shift their life.
So the coaching world is broad and deep. And you've been in it for how long?
Well, I've been through network marketing, my business, and I've had a lot of success in network marketing. I'm top 0.3% globally in my business. I would say that's where I found coaching myself. That's when I got my first coach. And I'd say I've been in it for 12 years, maybe 12 years. And in this brand now, where I'm doing more business coaching, I would say the last 4 months.
And what qualifies you to be a great coach?
That's a great question, by the way. So I'm not somebody who's a fan of certificates, right? Same for fitness. There's a lot of people that think they need to go and do a £3,000 course, and then they've got the certificate. And I remember, like my first exposure to life coaching was with Tony Robbins. Now, part of the thing that qualifies me is I've invested over $1 million with Tony Robbins, right? But when I meet somebody, when I look at Tony Robbins, who's someone who's spent years going through all sorts of things that life has to throw at him, and he's come out the other end as a successful guy where I'd want to be, all right, I want to listen to what that guy's got to say, right? He's going to help navigate through experience. When you can see like a 21-year-old go and do a life coaching course for me and get a certificate, that doesn't qualify somebody. So I'm kind of like really ultra against that. That's like sort of like a pet hate. But for me, look, I just try and share with people what I've done. So I've built multiple multi-million-dollar a year businesses. I've exited businesses. I've built 7-figure crypto portfolio, 7-figure property portfolio, over 7 figures in cash, 8 figures in assets. So, and I've been through heart attacks, divorce. Like I said, I've invested over $1 million with Tony. I've invested over 150K with other over $250,000 with other coaches. So I've sort of, and I've been able to create my life here in Dubai financially free. So I just try and pay forward and teach the lessons that I've learned.
Incredible. And would you agree that the coaching industry is quite saturated?
The short answer is no. I think it's undervalued. I think, unfortunately, generally only the ultra successful really realize they need a coach. And I think many people who are struggling with success are in a scarcity mindset of they can't afford it. Right. So I think it's undervalued. I think that even if you look at sports, right, every major football team has a coach. I mean, these guys are world-class players, right? Do they really need to teach someone teach them how to play football? Or what's better, because that's a team sport, even boxing as an analogy I like to use, and swimming and all of it, right? They all have a coach. Why? Right? The reality is being successful or getting all the things that you want lies outside of your comfort zone. So how do you break through that? It's generally not more skill. It's generally more discipline. So you go, well, how do I do that? Because I'm pretty disciplined, right? But there's days that you pull up and you feel like, I don't feel like going to the gym, or I don't feel like making that sales call, or I don't feel like doing that thing. That's what separates the average to the ultra successful. They'll show up regardless, right? A coach helps you do that. A coach helps you sometimes when you're in the middle of everything. Look, you run multiple businesses, you do lots of things. I know, and I talk to you, that you've got loads going on, right? Like every entrepreneur has. There's a million things muddled up in their head. We're maybe being a parent, being a partner, traveling, paying house bills and sorting out everything in the house, and running a business. It all gets muddled up. But when you get a clear structured plan and you work to a clear structured plan, the success you can achieve in a short period of time dwarfs that of everyone else that's just living day-to-day life. So I think that, is it saturated? I think more people are launching a business in that. I think the online space is lending itself to that. I think there's a lot more digital nomads. I think there's a lot more younger people that are understanding that the way to be successful isn't necessarily to go to school for years and years and get student loan debt and then try and get a job. It is to start off and start your own business. And I think that if they've had a success in an area, coaching is one of those things. But I think as people are going into it, I still think it's nowhere near being saturated. It's undervalued and underused.
And so you invest a lot in your own coaching as well.
Yeah.
Being as successful as you are.
Yeah.
Creating what you've created.
Yeah.
Why do you still do that?
It's a great question. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's anything I'd ever want to stop doing. So I don't make decisions on how much is it going to cost me. I make decisions on what's good for me and what's bad for me. It's always good for me to have somebody who's way more successful than me, further ahead, that can see my life from a different vantage point, that's not going to be caught up in all the emotional stuff that I can be caught up with. It's going to give me clear direction, a fast track of where I want to go, because if they're 10 steps ahead of me, then they're going to show me how to overcome the next 2 steps really easy. So I always look at how can I make more money to keep those things that I think are valuable to me. It's never a lack of, I've spent that already, so I shouldn't spend it anymore. It's an investment. It's like, when would you stop eating healthy? When would you stop going to the gym, right? So if it's good for you, then a lot of people make decisions from a place of, I can't afford to, right? For me, it's a necessity. I need to have somebody in front of me that keeps my standards high, helps me keep my standards high. Of course, I'm driven myself as well, right? But you're never going to be as driven. You're going to have, I mean, look, I invest in a personal trainer. I've been training for years. I don't need a personal trainer. I like a personal trainer. He's going to help me lift that extra weight that I don't think I can lift. There's days that I'm tired. I don't want to push. He's going to make me push, because if he says do 10, I'm going to have to do 10. I'm not going to stop at, if I'm on my own, I could stop at 3 or 4 and go, you worked hard yesterday. And we all have that conversation with ourselves, right? That self-talk and that, that devil on your shoulder. You've done enough. Do you really need to put, you're pushing so hard already. You deserve a break. And it cheats us out of being great. They say good is the enemy of great. Many of us have a good standard. But the people that we know, the names of like the Elon Musks or the Mike Tysons, whatever name that we would all know in our head, the greats, they're standing out because they're great, because they didn't settle for good. And there's loads of John Smiths that we never know of that are pushing every day, trying, living a pretty good life, doing pretty good in business, doing pretty good in stuff, but not really quite breaking through. And that's the difference.
And so did your kind of aptitude and acceptance of coaching come about hand in hand with network marketing?
That's a really great question. I mean, look, I was fortunate enough to get around Tony Robbins 12 plus years ago, 12, 13 years ago, which it did, by the way, by default come from network marketing. And I would say that Tony is the GOAT. So a little bit different to what I do, because he's on a big scale and he's filling out like tens of thousands of people, and it does online events with like 1 million people online, right? So I was at a very dark place in my life. I was looking for opportunity when network marketing showed up through one of my best friends. Now, I'd had success in nightclubs. I had made millions of pounds, and I couldn't sell the business. And one day I just closed the business. I couldn't sell it. No one taught me. I grew up from a poor family. No one taught me how to build a business. We talk about financial freedom, by the way. Again, it's when you have systems in a business, you have a sellable business. It doesn't mean you need to sell it, but no one ever taught this to me. I was only ever taught growing up, how do you make more money? And, like rich people are happy, right? So how do you make more money? Then I end up having a good business. But I didn't know how to structure it. I didn't know how to exit it. I didn't know what to do, because no one ever taught me those things. So I didn't have a coach, right? So literally one day I closed the doors. One day I'm making, I don't know, a lot of money every year. And then one day I just closed the door. I never sold, I couldn't sell it. And I've gone from up here to down here, right? And so when network marketing showed up, my mentor told me, we have a plan, a proven plan, where the position determines the pay and the pay determines the lifestyle. And I was like, oh, I want a good lifestyle, I want good pay. And he said, you can go as far as you want and you can go as fast as you want. And I was always ambitious. So I always wanted to make more. And having walked away from my business with zero, I'm like, well, I need to go fast, because I've just spent 15 years in the nightclub business and it was a hard graft. I want to go super fast. And that's what I did. And then I got introduced to a Tony Robbins event. My friend who brought me into network marketing gave me a free ticket to a Tony Robbins event. And at the time, funny enough, I wasn't earning any money. I was just starting out in network marketing. It's a brand new business. I'd made money in my life. And I committed to my first $250,000 with Tony Robbins for that year. And everyone thought I was crazy, because 13 years ago, you buy an apartment or a house for that money in the UK. And I invested in myself. But I just understood, I've got an opportunity to go far and fast. I need his help now. I need his help when I'm at the beginning of it, not when I'm successful. Some people think, when I've got enough money, if I'm earning $1 million, yeah, I can spend $250,000 on a coach. And no, it's not that. You need it now so that you can get there. And yeah, so it brought me into coaching, and the stuff I learned in that period of my life with Tony. I mean, I was in my early 30s. I'm going to say 33, 34. I can't remember the year exactly. And he just taught me stuff that I was thinking, no one's ever taught me this. No one's taught me how to be fit and healthy. I was someone who struggled with weight my whole life, by the way, right? He taught me some stuff around health. He taught me some stuff about, of course, mindset. Taught me stuff about emotions. Man, I mean, I was a guy that had a bad temper, and I could literally destroy everything with my temper, relationships, businesses, right? So, if you've got a big business, if you see anyone that's made a lot of money, that has a lot of responsibility, got a lot of success, you can see how calm they are. Generally, there's exceptions to the rules, but generally, rule of thumb, managing their emotional state. Managing your emotional state is one of the most important things. Another thing I learned with Tony was decisions shape our destiny. So we're making decisions every day. You know, what do we wear today? What time? Who should we meet? Where should we spend our time? Where should we invest our money? What should we do? Every decision we make shapes our life, right? Many of us are making decisions from a bad emotional state. Negative, depressed, tired, worn out. We're not making the right decisions. And then we blame everyone else. When actually, if we control our emotions, we've got a much clearer picture, and then we can make much better decisions and we have much better results.
So let's rewind back to your days of elite parties and running nightclubs. I can imagine you weren't speaking as you speak now. You weren't as eloquent as,
Thank you.
You've clearly done a lot of personal development and work and embodied and actually become this person. What were you like at the beginning of the journey in nightclubs?
Well, do you know what? I want to just, before we go, I just want to add something on before we were talking about coaches and like where it all started for me. I would say that I went on this journey for me, to develop me, for me, not to have a business. And it's only as a byproduct of what I've achieved and who I speak to and where I go that I understand I can help a lot of people. Yeah. And actually the impetus for me to launch this sort of coaching brand was after my heart attack. And I felt like a bit of a spiritual awakening and a call to be more in my life and give more. Yeah. But my passion for growing has always been my internal passion. So I've invested in coaching just because I want to be better for me. Yeah. And obviously I noticed a change from when I was in elite parties. If I go back to my days of elite parties, again, it started off, there's a few things I can look back in retrospect that I know today that I didn't know then about myself. So how I started, I love people. And I actually started in nightclubs helping a friend who was a DJ. In fact, he didn't drive. I would drive him to DJ. Through hanging around with him, I made friends with other nightclub promoters. It was a completely different world back then. And I just love being around people and socializing. So I never really thought, I'm going to make money from doing this. I just wanted to do it because I wanted to do it. And I like being nice to people and I like my friends. And then it turned out that I was good at socializing. Some people offered me to help them out. And then when I started helping them out for free, they offered to pay me. And I became a partner with some of the guys. And we started it was nice having a purpose and just trying to build something. You know, I was young, I was living at home. And yeah, and I mean, then I'd sort of meet other people. And I suppose I think there's some things that are innate, like my love for people. I was always hardworking. I grew up pretty poor. I think my dad set an expectation for me to be hardworking. So I've I've seen him be hardworking. I've always thought you've got to push. So I was hardworking at the time. I connected with some other people. We always wanted to add more value. Again, these are lessons I've learned later on. I couldn't articulate it back then, but we were like, well, what's our competitive edge going to be? That's what they're doing. How do we do what they're doing, but do it better? Add more, give more. And that was our secret formula. We had a lot of success. We were bringing out 1,500 people a week in the London club scene. We did events in Marbella and stuff like that. Trying to think up and down the country as well. In Leeds, we had events. It's a great networking thing. There was a huge buzz. One of my biggest passions from those days, like the most enjoyment things that I look back on, is I was like the glue for all of my kind of school friends and stuff. So we were like one big group and everybody would come out to my nights every single week. And it would be like we stayed close. Like today, I have a number of people that also, funny enough, we've all grown up poor. So a lot of my close friends are worth in excess of 50 million and 100 million, right? They've all gone on and been self-made successful people. But we've stayed close for like 20, 30 years. And I don't know if that's normal for everybody, but for us, because we spent that sort of 10, 15 year period in the club game and they were coming out to my nights all the time. It's where we'd all unwind together. It was a great experience. I think that other periods of that time, darker times of that time, there's a lot of dark times in the stories there, but was my temper and attitude, and I think that who I am today, I was able to overcome that to go to a different level.
So let's talk about those dark times. Were those personal dark times or dark times within the industry?
I mean, I've got to be conscious of what I say here, but look, let's just say that, look, if you understand, and I was very naive when I first got into clubs. I was just a guy trying to make some money and be a businessman. But the reality is, what's in the club scene, it's run by a lot of gangsters. There's a lot of drugs underlying. There's a lot of drug money. There's a lot of dodgy money. There's a lot of people. Again, when I had hot nights. I was 28 years old, driving a Lamborghini convertible. I mean, today that might even be quite common now with Instagram and where people are making money online, right? But when I was
Maybe not
growing
so
up,
much in the UK.
yeah, well, when I was, look, I'm 47 now, so you're talking 20 years ago. There wasn't many 28-year-olds driving, 150 grand Lamborghini, and I had a Porsche turbo convertible at the same time. So I had like £250,000 worth of cars back then, and I had all these thousands of people coming to my clubs. So guess what? Everyone knew who I was, and it kind of scared me a little bit. I mean, when growing up, when I was poor, I wanted to be rich and famous, and I thought, I don't want anyone to. I just want to be rich and no one to know me. Because there's a lot of challenges with coming with people knowing you. So there was that. There was so there was some dark things around that. There was dark things around like just I would drink and drive. Again, I'd drive to the club and I'd be loads of alcohol and do stupid stuff. There was lots of other stuff. There's all sorts of naughty stories as well. There's issues with people not getting into the club. If people didn't get into the club, I'd be having like threatening calls because people thought you think it's down to me. When the security would have a policy, right? But I'm the guy that everyone knows. We'd be running clubs where we had a shooting in one of the clubs one time. I'd have two clubs opposite each other with queues down the road, and I would literally go from one to the other, and just walking across the street was like being a superstar. Everybody's calling my name because I just knew so many of the people that come, and everyone knew who I was. So how I live my life now, I much prefer. I got to say, but there was lots of different. We were just involved in lots of things back then. The people that would come, the after parties, all different sort of parties that were happening. It was just a different world.
And would you say that being your first business experience, that really shaped how you started to see business? Did you know that there was a business world out there that could be more, let's call it wholesome?
I think it definitely, look, in network marketing, we call, you got to have a rhino skin, right? I don't know if you've ever heard that expression. You have to have a rhino skin because people are going to disappoint you. People are going to tell you no. People are going to laugh in your face. So I think that the clubs definitely gave me a rhino skin in many ways. I think very grateful to my parents. They never used to drink alcohol. And so just growing up, they sort of, I don't know, they would always put me off drugs and drink. They were that bit more, I won't say disciplined, or strict, but they guided me that way. Now it's interesting. So when I got into the industry, I wanted to make money, and I was focused on making money. I was focused on giving a good service and making loads of money. And I was conscious that I had quite an addictive personality, so I avoided drugs. Initially, I avoided drink. Drink came on later in my journey, but I saw other people. I saw the nightclub scene swallow people up with loads of ability. I saw them come in, and they were party guys and girls, and they were on the drugs, on the drink, after party to after party, and it was living for the weekend, living for what looked good instead of what they actually got. And I remember I'd go to business meetings, and again, some of these guys are going home on the night bus. I'm pulling up to these business meetings in Lamborghinis. The owners of the clubs understood I'm here to do business, So I think that gave me a big edge. I think being around people helps me understand business a lot, because I think when you're dealing with so many people, and then if you can maintain good relationships, you understand dynamics of people, so it's good for negotiation. I think being a networker, which is something I developed through that time, has helped me in business. I think I have a different appreciation for business now. I don't know. Look, if I had grown up in a sandwich making shop and it was making millions of pounds, would I be happy? Yeah, I think you can meet many different entrepreneurs, and I've got many friends that have got all different businesses, right? I mean, it doesn't really make a difference what business you do, but I think once you start to learn money and how to invest money and how it works and expenses and employing and this and that, like, it doesn't matter what your line of business is. We all develop a certain level of skills, and you start hanging around with people that are in the same, and you learn. I mean, I'm like, again, my friends are all successful, so I've learned a lot from my other friends, just talking about what they're doing with their money or how they're making decisions, Like one of my friends has got a chain of Domino's pizzas. And I remember he taught me something that helped me massively in business. Right? It's nothing to do with my businesses, but he gave me a list of how they rate things. And he says, look, this is how Domino's head office rate his store. So he does like a walk around on his store every single week. So whenever they're going to show up, he's operating at like a 10 out of 10. It's like, God, that's genius, making a list. Like now, with Tony Robbins, I've learned stuff like that. But day-to-day business, no one ever taught me stuff like that. I was just employing people and doing stuff. And some people, I would say, oh, he's good, he's not good, or she's good, she's not good. He's got common sense. Yeah, common sense isn't common. We need to, so I think all different. And my biggest USP now is having successful businesses in different industries where I can cross-pollinate and bring different things into those things. So I bring stuff that help me in nightclubs into a conventional business. I bring things that help me in network marketing and, how to train, how to employ, all sorts of stuff.
Just looking for those transferable principles.
And I remember, like I told you, when I came out of nightclubs, that was a difficult day for me because, so the most important thing in our life is to stay congruent with our identity, how we see ourselves, right? And you're looking at me with that strong posture now, and I know you see yourself as a very successful businesswoman, right? That's something you own, and probably a fit businesswoman. So you're going to do things that are going to meet who you see yourself as. Does that make sense? And so is everyone else. If someone else sees themselves as fat and lazy, they're gonna fulfill that how they see themselves. So I remember when I was doing nightclubs and I was about to close the business, and I couldn't sell it. And there was a load of lessons in that. I was about to close the business and I thought, who am I going to be? I've been like Dan, the club guy, right? Everyone, celebrities would come off of TV and call me up, or football players would get my number and, oh, you're the guy we need to know. Who am I going to be? Who's going to call me, right? What's my value? Like, who am I? And I came up with a mantra, which was, I make money, money doesn't make me. And I looked back, and how I got that mantra, I understood I didn't inherit this business. I built this business. How did I build it? I built it with transferable skills. Right? I built it with being hardworking, wanting to add value, coming up with innovative concepts, being good with people. Well, I can go and do any other business with those things. The same way I did this, but next time I'm going to do it in a business that I can sell, that is executable, that has got systems, right? And I started to understand that. So I think that, and so that became my identity, that I'm the successful guy. The business doesn't make me. I had that business for 10 to 15 years, it was my first success. It would have been easy for me to tie my identity to that business.
And so what was it like for you from like an emotional standpoint? You'd gone from being this celebrity almost in the club world, being somewhat at the top of your game with people knowing you and needing you, to starting again at ground zero.
Well, listen, what you're going to realize is loyalty doesn't go very far, right? And listen, people need you when they need you. And when you're hot, and when you're not, you're not, right? So so I remember when I started network marketing, which was the next shift that I went to from the nightclubs. Well, I went into my family business first, and I scaled that, and that came with its own challenges. And then I ended up exiting that business. But I would say that the main jump was into network marketing. And so I remember them telling me, right, this is the concept. And I mean, for my thing was a health product, and I lost loads of weight on the product, and I'd struggled with weight loss before. Like I told you, I didn't really understand health, and I was always feeling insecure inside with my body and hiding it with like designer clothes and stuff like that. And so when I lost the weight, I remember thinking, God, this is the best kept secret. Like this, everybody needs this, right? And then I remember my mentor telling me, listen, it's not just who you know, it's who they know and who they know and who they know. And I was like, well, I know loads of people and they know loads of people. This is going to be easy for me. And I started going out, and one of my best friends at the time, and I went to his house with him and his dad, and they were like multimillionaires, and they had loads of resources. And I said to him, oh, we're going to do this thing and you guys can go even faster. And they literally laughed in my face, right? I remember I was at their house having dinner, and they laughed in my face, and I felt like, my decision was made. I was thinking, they may have more than me, but they're not helping me with what they've got. In this business, I've got a mentor that's got loads, and he's helping me. And so I'm gonna stick to him, and I'm gonna follow that plan. So when I went to loads of my friends let me down. I say let me down. I think that's probably the wrong term. They didn't trust me like I thought they should trust me, right? I don't know if you can relate. And I remember one of my friends who was the first guy. I owed him some money because he lent me some money on a night out, and I gave him the pack, and I said, right, that's what I owed you. And anyway, he never got started. And then a year later, he was like, oh, I should have started with you a year ago. I said, listen, we're even stronger now. Now's the best time. He's like, no. A year went by. Oh man, I should have started last year when you said, and that's been our relationship for the last 10 plus years, right? And and so what I just realized is, look, when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. I know Phoenix is something important to you. I see myself as a Phoenix as rising from the ashes many times over. I think that, and come back to even, it all ties in with coaching. No one's going to save you. You've got to save yourself. How can you save yourself when you're struggling or you don't feel like it? You've got to raise your standards. How do you raise your standards? That's where you get a coach for that can help you, that can inject that positiveness. Because I don't know if in my experience, friends, business partners, everyone's just in their own world doing their own thing, So I think that, like you're only as good as your last success, your last deal. And once it stops. And, I've rarely have I had someone I can think of open doors for me because of any of my previous successes or anything I've done. Everything's always been from now. What am I doing right now?
So on the topic of loyalty, you mentioned that a couple of times. Do you think it actually exists, or are people just loyal to themselves?
No, I think, look, loyalty does exist. I think there's different ways of how someone can be loyal, right? I think, and probably loyalty is probably the wrong word. I think that maybe they didn't believe in me enough or trust that I knew what I was doing. I know a long time when I went into my network marketing business, which was a health and fitness business, nutrition and fitness business, people were like, well, how are you a nightclub guy doing this, right? And so they had put me in that box. But I always tell some of my friends that are entrepreneurs, I think you and I had this conversation the other day, I don't put myself in that box. I'm an entrepreneur. And there's transferable. So for me, I can learn anything, can do anything, right? But not everyone sees you the way you see yourself. I think that to say that people are only loyal to themselves, I think most people are fine about it. I think few people are truly happy. I think few people are living their life to their expectation, to where they'd like it to be, or exceeding their expectation. I think most people are underperforming and underfulfilled. They don't have set things in place. So I think people are putting out their own fires. I think, unfortunately, I don't have enough time to care enough about you. But there's different levels. If someone's good, your most loyal friends generally are going to be the ones that are more successful and happier because, look, they're going to see you as someone they want to support, and they understand those sorts of things. You've seen those memes on Instagram, right? People will buy from the celebrity, but they won't support their friend going into their new business. Right. I think, and I don't think it's that people necessarily think, I think there's two things. I don't think that people think, I don't want to be loyal. I think that firstly, there's a trust element. Well, I trust that thing maybe more than I trust this person's going to succeed. I think the other thing is as well, sometimes when people are striving, something else I've learned, someone told me this, growing up, when I first started making money, I had a few challenges with some friends. And my other friend growing up from school was rich already. And he told me, he said, you know what, Dan, he said, some people are more jealous of you when they see you making money because they've started in the same place than when they meet you as already being rich. They don't really relate. Right, but if you're here and you start doing that, they can get jealous. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it for what it's worth.
Yeah, and you're now in a place that's very affluent. It's very production heavy. And let's say there's lots of people here that are striving and growing.
I thought you were talking about my mind. I've just realised you were talking about Dubai.
We're talking about Dubai. We're talking about Dubai. We're sat in a studio right now in Dubai.
Yeah.
So you were in London, doing London nightlife.
Yeah.
Transitioned into network marketing. How did you end up in Dubai? How long have you been here?
Okay, so before Dubai, there was Marbella in Portugal. So through network marketing, I had the good fortune to have an incredible mentor. In addition to what I had with Tony Robbins, I had an incredible mentor who was one of the most successful in the industry, in my business, who just taught me so much about life that I'm eternally grateful for. He's a great friend today. But one of the things he taught me was design your life. So I take for granted actually after doing so much personal development, having so many coaches of what people know, but you should always start with the end in mind. So I think we're programmed in school and go to college and go to university to think forward, to go this way. Or actually successful people think, where do I want to be? How do I reverse engineer it? So my thing was always to live by the beach. I always wanted to live by the beach. I always wanted to live in the sun. I tell you what, so there's a bit of a journey. Originally I was poor. I had some success in nightlife, but then I wanted to spend the money, and I nearly moved to Dubai during my nightclub business. But the way my business was structured, I couldn't. And so that was always something that kind of opened me up to, God, now I've got the money. How do I enjoy it? Well, I want to enjoy it, on a boat, by the beach, doing this stuff in the sun. Oh, I don't want to live in the city. So that opened that awareness up because before that, I was more of a, how do I just make more money? But once I started having excess, I started thinking, well, now I've got excess. How do I want to enjoy my life? So that became another question. From network marketing, obviously now understanding some of this stuff, well, how do I want to enjoy everything out of life, you know? And I think I even thought this before I was a parent. I thought I want to be able to take my kid to private school. I want to be able to take him to school. I want to be able to go to the sports days. I want to be able to go for a run on the beach. So I started designing this life. So network marketing was one of the main businesses that gave me passive income. Once I built up the business to a certain level, I was able to enjoy passive income. Then I could be based anywhere. And prior to that, in nightclubs and in my security system, my contracting business, I never really understood that I could be based geographically. Of course, COVID has come, and now most people understand they can be based anywhere. But prior to that, you know, it was more conventional. So I moved over to Marbella, Spain. It was close to the UK. It was 2-3 hours. I had friends there. I'd done business there. A lot of people from the UK would travel there. It was just kind of one of those places that was well known. It was where I could live by the beach and then fly back for whatever business meeting I needed and stuff like that. Then Brexit happened, and I wanted to, obviously when I'm earning a certain amount, I'm thinking now tax. So we moved to Portugal. I was married at this point. We moved to Portugal, and we thought, well, it's like Spain, but it's just you know, it's a little bit further down the road, down the coast, but similar kind of way of living, and we enjoyed living in Spain. Went to Portugal. It was like going back in time. It was like Spain 15 years ago, and or more, even 20 years ago. It was a bit like going to a village where we were in the Algarve. So we didn't really settle there. That was the point where my wife and I decided to get divorced and also decided to break up. And so I was looking at tax havens, and Dubai came out, and a couple of my friends had moved to Dubai. And I thought, well, you know, I'm not sure it would be right for me, but let me go and have a look. And I flew over and I spoke to some people, and I thought, you know what, I quite like it here. And then I thought, let me give it a go. I spent a few weeks here with some friends, and it just made a bit of sense. It was tax-free, which was one of the things. It was already, obviously, of course, in the sun, by the beach, all of those great things. And then coming here now and settling here, a couple of things that I love about Dubai, and there is a mindset here. So Portugal had some tax benefits, not as good as Dubai, but the mindset was a very village-like mindset. There's not enough demand there. So like, I mean, my ex-wife had horses, like just ordering stuff, it was way more expensive. You had less choice. And that was kind of like, that was everything in Portugal. Like you had less choice and everything's more expensive because the demand isn't there. You come to Dubai, everything you need, not just from the UK and the European world, but also from the US, like the best of everything is here. I remember when I first moved into my first apartment here, and literally it was like a military operation, and I was running everything off of WhatsApp. It was so efficient. The internet getting on, the Amazon delivery, the furniture being delivered, everything. Everyone's just WhatsApping me, and we're setting the times. It was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I mean, in Portugal and Spain, you want to get anything done, you're waiting a week, you wait 2 weeks. So I was like, I can work with it. Yeah, I can work with this. In Portugal, where I was living, we didn't have the best internet. Dubai, super fast internet, right? And then just all different things. So look, today I'm living a life where I have a boat. I'm out on the boat. Funny enough, I was out yesterday on a boat. I'm going out on a boat tomorrow. I'm taking friends out. And it's the life that I envisage for myself as the bottom line.
Amazing.
You know? Yeah.
And so what are some of the downsides of Dubai?
You could get me in trouble here. I think that, look, there's a lot of people moving here right now. What's some of the downsides? It's fast paced, which again, depending on what you want, I quite like. I'm at a growth stage in my life. It depends. But I think you can actually build your life however you want, to be fair. I say that. I think that there's not a lot of physical crime, but there is a lot of digital crime. So you have to be mindful. You know, you get lots of sales calls and stuff like that. There's not like the privacy isn't as good. Lots of traffic at the minute. Look, I mean, I've got to be honest with you. It's hard for me to pull out some of this. There's always going to be downsides. Nothing's perfect, right? But as I'm reading this stuff off, it doesn't feel fair to say. I think that the good outweighs the bad, like by about 10 to 1. I think that you need to have a certain level of money. I was talking to my friend again today, and he's just moved over, and he said, look, just on going out, because me and my wife have fallen into the Dubai life, and we've been here like 6 weeks and spent £25,000 just on going out, right? So he didn't anticipate that. So it is very social. You get a lot of nice luxury things, but it costs, and you're more enticed to live that life. Like I often tell people in the US that Dubai is like a mix between Miami and Vegas. Now, if you've ever been to Vegas, you know, if you've got money to spend, Vegas will show you how to spend it, right? You'll have the trip of your life, but it will just cost you a lot, right? You'll do magical things that you've never done. You'll go and get the helicopter and land in the Grand Canyon, but it costs, right? And that's like Dubai. You can do anything and you get enticed to live that way, which I think is kind of good if you can afford to, right? But I think that also, if things come down to a lack of time and a lack of money, or not enough time, not enough money, they're the wrong things and you're in the wrong headspace, you know?
And so there's a culture here, isn't there, that's influenced by Arabic culture, where men pay for a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Most stuff.
Okay.
Right. If we were going out for dinner,
Yes.
you'd pay, right?
You and I, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's right?
That's a difficult question. So yeah, come back to the downsides of Dubai. I'd say dating here, and I've been single and dating for a long time. It's not been the best. There's pros and cons, but there's definitely an expectation. I think many of the girls specifically move here and can't afford to live here. So they're desperately looking for a sugar daddy or somebody to take care of them instantly. Do I think if a man going out for dinner with a woman that the man should pay? That's my standards. I believe that, look, I believe in masculine and feminine energy. And I think that a man's got a role and a woman's got a role. I'm someone that, again, look, I see money in business like oxygen. Like I can always make more. And therefore, if I wouldn't pay generally, it would be because I can't afford to. Or I'd feel like strained from doing that. Do you get what I mean? So I think that's a man's role, is to be a provider and a protector. I think a woman's role is to be a nurturer. I think understanding those roles and living those roles is one thing. I think there's a girl trying to abuse a guy transactionally is wrong, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I think that energetically, I think women, there are today many successful business women, and many women are successful in business, but the energy of being successful in business is a masculine energy, regardless. So the more that a woman is in that space, the more she has to be very conscious of what's going on and has to have techniques to take herself out of the masculine into a feminine energy in order to have a good relationship.
So you talk masculine, feminine energy. What does that actually mean?
So you've got a man and you've got a woman, right? Now, there are men, and everyone has masculine and feminine energy within them. There are just traits of things that connect to that. You can have a man that is more in a feminine energy and a woman that's more in a masculine energy. So to give you an example, is a way to explain it best, I suppose. The feminine energy is more uncontrolled, is more like a flower floating in the sky. It's airy fairy generally. If you think about a bag, a woman's handbag, they'll generally like have everything, and they'll have this massive handbag. Why? Just in case this. I mean, like you could be in a sunny country in Dubai, have an umbrella just in case it rains, right? Just in case and if you look at a man's, it's like that thin, right? Why? Because they take what they need. So the masculine energy is about taking a problem, making it small and solving it. Right, that's what a business energy is. It's doing it. It's taking something big and solving. A woman or feminine energy. I say a woman, feminine energy. They like to gossip. If they've got a problem, they need to go and talk to their girlfriends about it. If they go shopping, another great example. You see what I mean? Let's go shopping. What does shopping mean for a woman? It means let's go and walk around the shopping mall for 5 hours, right, and enjoy the process, right? For a guy, it's I need shoes. Let me go and get shoes and get out. Like, and that's masculine and feminine energy.
So don't you think that you've attached energy to social archetype there? So let me explain. Let's go back to indigenous culture, or I'm not even going to pretend like I know somewhere, but there would be like women who were actually the providers and men that were doing the nurturers. There'll be societies now. Okay. Yeah. There'll be societies now where women will be in charge. They will run that household, and the man won't be that. Yeah. Do you not think we've created a social construct and then attached it to energy? So
like I said, that woman, in fact, in that who's running that household will be in masculine energy. Masculine and feminine energy is not man and woman, right? We all have. I have masculine energy and I have feminine energy. You have masculine energy, you have feminine energy. There'll be different things. I could watch a movie and cry, and I'm more in a feminine energy in that moment, right? Relating to people can be more in a feminine energy. So if a woman is running a household, that is masculine energy. It doesn't mean she's a man. It just means she's in masculine energy. Now, if you, it's easier to see. So if I gave you a woman in masculine energy and a woman in feminine energy, you're going to completely see the difference just in their face alone. Right? A masculine energy is more focused. It's more, I need to get there now. I need to solve this thing now. I need to do this, this, and this. A woman's just, a feminine energy is just being, it's like a creative energy. Yeah. It's essential. It's like being sensual. It's essential energy. Now you take that woman that's running that household, do you think she instantly goes into essential energy? And then you understand the difference between masculine and feminine energy. Now, it's not saying she can't, by the way. There's very successful, we spoke about coaching, we spoke about personal development. These are the things that I've been taught. These are the things that I now understand. But a woman that's been taught can be in masculine energy and have rituals, have things that she does, techniques to take her out of that and understand, this is who I am in this situation. Mm-hmm. This is who I am in this situation. But the reality is that, and look, a masculine man won't generally want to be with a masculine woman, a woman in masculine energy. So she will attract, there's women that way out earn men and they take care of their sugar mummies. They're sugar dad, and there's a guy that doesn't work. There might be a great dynamic, there might be great sex, there might be all different sorts of things, but inevitably, not always, because some women have masculine energies and as their default, right? There are few and far between, but most, if we say rule of thumb rather than the exception, I'm just caveating all this stuff, right? So I get myself.
Everything's nuanced.
Yeah, right. That woman isn't satisfied because she's having to put on this armor to go to work, to fight the world, to take care of everything. And she wants to be taken care of because the feminine energy at its core wants to be protected and provided for. And the masculine energy at its core wants to provide and protect.
So let's talk about provision and protection.
Yeah.
Why have we attached that to money?
Yeah, so I think, it's growing up. I'm talking about a lot of stuff, and these are my opinions for what it's worth. It's not the truth, right? But I remember growing up and all the good-looking girls would always either be with the rich guy or the tough guy, right? So it's not only money, it's a level of protection. But I think that the reality is that people feel a lot more safer with money. I think decisions different. I've got friends that have a lot of money. I've got friends that don't have a lot of money. And the guys that don't have a lot of money have a lot more insecurity. Maybe they don't know where they're going to live, if they're going to if they can't afford to pay the bills at the end of the month, So there's a lot more fear. There's a lot more insecurity. Whereas I think that having success and having money gives you, not always, by the way, it's all mental. You can be super rich and in your head be scared of everything, right? But again, if we go on rule of thumb, having more financial success gives you a lot more security.
And so let's create a fictitious scenario.
Yeah.
We've got an equally successful man and woman who decide to date. This man is not threatened by this woman's financial independence or status. In fact, he celebrates it and supports it. From my experience, a lot of women who are in that position where they don't want for a man for money, it's an added bonus if they have it. They're asking for different things within that relationship and that dynamic. Maybe quality time, emotional presence, a bit more care, maybe a bit more romance. Do you think men who are maybe more driven by more traditional mindsets like being the provider financially, actually give enough capacity and time to be with a woman of that caliber and social status?
Well, it's hard to talk fictitiously, right? But let's talk about, Mary and John. This could be. I think that going into a relationship, number one, the expectations are a certain thing. So that said woman might have X amount of expectations. As the relationship develops, those expectations can change. So it's not a one and done. It's not this is always what it's going to be. The second thing is there's an attraction for the masculine. The feminine wants to surrender. It wants to be taken. It wants to be owned. So generally, when you have the polarity of feminine and masculine, that feminine wants to be taken. The masculine wants to take. So that is actually, it's a great dynamic.
Energetic.
It's a great. Now, if we go back to your fictitious scenario of independent, is that independent? Does this guy really feel like I'm going to take this woman? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, I don't know. But there is a level of dominance here. Now, maybe there's a lot of things that are great, but is that woman in her true feminine if she's so independent? Maybe she, again, it depends on her development. It depends on what skills she's using to put herself in that state. But there will always be more of an attraction, more of a presence, more of a thing when that polarity is there. And I suppose it's the difference of contrast of white and black versus just grey.
Mm-hmm.
Where grey is like, eh. Do you get what I mean?
I do. And do you think then that women who are financially successful and independent should always date up? They should date someone more financially.
Look, I don't think there is ever a should. I think you've got to do what's right for you, and I think everything is case specific. I think that again, if it was a rule of thumb, I would say there should be something there, and probably I think that if I was a betting man and I was betting on 5 different relationships, and one of those was she's dating up, she's dating down, she's dating equal, or whatever the case may be, I would say that the dating up one has got more chance of success. If, by the way, she knows how to go into her feminine and take care of that guy, because he's going to have certain expectations as well. So he might be the provider and protector, but she's got to be able to be the nurturer and give him the things that he needs.
So do you think overall this whole rise of women's empowerment and women becoming financially secure and independent is actually a good thing?
The whole rise of women's empowerment and becoming, I think, well, now we're going down a real rabbit hole, but I think that the world, if I'm going to share my personal views, the older I've got, the more I've learned, the more traditional I've become in my values and how I see things should be. Yeah. So I think that the world there's been moments where people say, well, it's not fair, it's not equally correct. I think true feminists are defending feminism and feminine energy. True feminists. I think there's a falsehood in that women should have be the same as men. We're built differently. Yeah, we're built different. Like physically, we're stronger. Physically, what we're capable of doing. Physically, how our mind works and how the gifts we've got. Like if I look at bodies, I would say the female body is a more attractive body than the male body, right? So okay, as a woman, you see that too,
Great.
right? So there's advantages you've got and there's advantages we've got. We're not meant to be. Well, we're both humans, so we should all be equal and do everything the same. No. You're going to give birth. I can't give birth. But you know, I've got more ability to defend, to protect, to provide than what a woman's got. So look, I think anything that pushes us forward and makes us more empowered is a good thing. But I think there's a level where some of society has pushed us where women have forgotten how to be feminine, how to be women, and there's a disbalance. And guess what? What we then, going back to your question about should women date up and stuff like that, the more empowered women you have, the more weaker men have become. I mean, if I said to you, do you think men have become weaker?
Depends what you class and define as weakness.
Okay. Do you think they become more feminine?
I actually don't think so.
Okay.
I think that maybe there is more a demand on them because of the rise of women in society to actually step up emotionally. And I think there's a gap there a lot of the time.
Because women have stepped up, you think men haven't stepped up or they have stepped up?
I mean, if we're going to say, let's say we believe, and I'm not saying I believe this, but let's say we believe, okay, because women are now here financially, men need to be there emotionally and in terms of presence.
Yes.
I think there is a gap in that work.
Oh, so you think that women have stepped up financially, but men haven't stepped up emotionally? Is that what you're saying?
Generally speaking,
right.
There has been less men that have committed to do that work.
So you went back, when we were talking about feminine and masculine energy, you went back to indigenous times and stuff like this, right? You look at going back to all these like Roman Empire times and men were gladiators and fighting do you think that's the modern man today?
I think we have a very interesting melting pot of masculine and feminine identities in current times. And I feel like you have the rise of a very traditional outlook and stuff, which is on the rise. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yes. So you're saying there's a contrast in opinions, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that COVID has been a big shake-up of contrasting that has exposed two sides. One side is more digital in nature and pushing that, and the other side is pushing more holistic ways in meditation and being more around nature. And I think that you've got the other side of, GLBTQ or LGBTQ, of like, and boys can be girls, and I think that's crazy from my personal standpoint. I've got friends that are gay, each into their own, right? But I think that I'll appreciate everybody's standpoint until they start forcing it on to culturally how they are, and it affects my kid and it starts to brainwash people. And I think going back to this women and equal rights has kind of been a little bit of that, where I think it's been a disservice to women.
And equally, I think the rise of people like Tate and the hyper masculinity has also been a disservice to young boys and young men.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah.
Why so?
I know.
What do you think he teaches that's wrong?
I mean, listen. I think if we get into opinions on Tate, a lot of what he says is great and has great value. But I know a lot of, from my own personal world and experience, people who have young boys who have had to wean them off a certain way of thinking.
Oh, really?
Their way of parenting, I don't have children, but their way of parenting has not supported every single belief system that's been put out there as clickbait and has been put out there in very strong views. And I think knowing my friends as parents, that's a whole nother job for them to navigate through.
I think that, look, Tate's got his way and he's been amazingly disruptive in a way to bring his opinion and get the fame that he's gotten at and be heard. You know, I think that he's one person, maybe he's outsmarted the system. I think that when we've got a schooling system that's teaching our kids that they can be girls if they're boys, if they want, they're teaching our boys that if they can be girls, if they want to be girls, I think that's insane.
Great.
So I don't know. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. I mean, again, I create my own little life
Yeah.
the way that I do it. And, thank God that I do. But come back to the femininity topic and women being successful. Look, I've got many successful female friends. I'm very proud of them. I think that if I said how many of them are in successful relationships, it's very few, right? And do they all want to be in a successful relationship? Yes. Do they all want to be loved and cared for? Yes. And they don't understand why. And they don't understand why, because they don't understand where their energy is at, because in their head, I'm just a successful woman, but you weren't created to be that. Yeah, it's great that you can do that stuff and it's great that you're capable, but you've got to understand, like if all of a sudden fish started climbing trees, we'd go, the world's gone nuts, right? Somewhere along the line that I've been in seminars, I've seen thousands of people, I've seen experiments done with thousands of people in front of my eyes, right? The feminine energy is by far the most powerful energy. And I've seen the most softest of women control the most strongest and hardest of men, just because men will crumble for their women, because they men will literally give that. And here's the thing, there's a great woman coach called Alison Armstrong. She's written a number of books. I'm going to send you her books, actually. It's great. And the book is called Understanding Women, right? And of course, it's like that thick.
Men's one is
we still didn't work it out. We still didn't. But one of the things she talks about, I forget the exact thing, and she references who's the guy in As Good as It Gets, the famous actor. I forget, I forget his name. Jack Nicholson. And he says something like, women are men, take away. It was accountability and something else. And when she explains it, and this is a woman studying men and women, and she's got some great insight. She's like, neurologically, like how we're programmed, by the way, you and I are human, but we're not the same. Your brain works different to my brain as a female brain. My brain works different, right? You're going to have a much better memory because women's brain, the two sides, the emotional side connects to the learning side. So you've got emotion attached to everything that you see and learn. I don't. And to come back to the wallets, right? Like we retain just what we need to learn. That's why men forget people's birthdays. It's just not as necessary for survival, right? This is like historical DNA. Women have less accountability. It's just what they do. It was hilarious. I was invited to a games night, right, with one of my friends, a couple, and all the couples came over, and the women are drinking, and the guys aren't. Anyway, and we're doing this like Pictionary type game, and like the men smoked the girls, right? Just they're much smarter than us, of course, but they're all drunk. But we smoked the girls, but all the guys like going, no, you won, honey. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, 5 extra points here. And it was hilarious. And at the end of it, I forget what they said, but there was like, when we went, we were recalling it the day after or something. Yeah, you guys, or I can't remember what happened, but the bottom line, the girls were just like, oh, yeah, we won. And it was like, there was no honor. It was honor and accountability. Men have honor and they will lay their life down. If a bullet's coming for you, I will jump in front of it, where a woman wouldn't necessarily do that. And that's the feminine and masculine energy. We're built a certain way and women aren't. And it's literally biological. It's not about opinions. It's science, right? Now, does that mean you can't go and be successful? A woman can't go and be successful? Of course you can. And it's proven, in network marketing, women are more successful than men, right? The best network marketers are women, right? And they've actually got more skills than men, right? When you talk about emotions and stuff like that and nurturing, right? But if you're talking about successful relationship and talking about living in alignment and in your core, then I think that the feminine energy is different. And again, you can be a successful, driven businesswoman. Just know that when you know that you're in your masculine energy, you just need to have a routine to come out of it. And again, if you're with a guy that if you're dating up, for example, it's probably going to be easier. That's one. It's not solely that thing, but it's going to be easier to do
it
that.
Definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. So you co-parent and you're very passionate about your son.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know we knew each other from years ago, but I've heard you when we've connected in more recent times, just talk about your son all the time. And I massively respect you, like taking my son out on the boat day today and taking him out there. Quality time seems like a very important thing for you, co-parenting. Would you mind just sharing how do you co-parent and what's important?
Well, I mean, look, you know, so a lot of what we spoke about today, it kind of intertwines into this and it intertwines into the identity of how I see myself, okay? So I've had a challenged upbringing with my parents. I don't have a great relationship with my parents. And I've been through lots of challenging times. And so during that, and also going through divorce, so all of those things, like, my son for me is like a legacy. It's like it's somewhere I can pour I think like firstly I think that having a child and becoming a parent changes everything about you. Like you can explain to someone, but no one gets it until you live it. And so I've become softer, I've become calmer, I've become more loving, I've become more thoughtful, less selfish. You know, like also being a husband and just a provider of the house. Like I think you got to think for everybody and being a leader as overall. And I think I've got like scars and wounds from all my journey in life. I've got a lot of successes, right? But it's come at a cost. How can I, just much like a coach would for their client, how do I pay that to my kid who's my best client, basically, and give him all the tools and teach him the things that I didn't know, right? Because growing up, I was brought up in scarcity, right? Where actually I believe my son can be anything he wants to be. I think anyone can be anything they want to be. We have unlimited potential. So it kind of intertwines into coaching as well. And a lot of who I am today, what I've learned in coaching, like, was it worth the money I invested? Yes, I've made it back tenfold, but it's the other things that I've learned for life and lessons and with my health, with my mentality, with my psychology, with understanding how to raise a kid, right? Not just sending him to school and not caring, but actually understanding who's teaching him the things that he really needs to learn, how to manage his emotions, how to be fit, how to be disciplined. I mean, you know, the school system, in my opinion, is broken, and the medical system is broken. So there's those sorts of things. But in addition to all of that, so is me understanding that he, at this point in his life, needs to feel safe. So when I was first going through divorce and I had some different legal battles going on in different areas of my life, I understood that I want to be in my kid's life and that he's going to live with his mum, and therefore I need to provide for them. So, and I understood that the arguments with me and her, for anyone who's going through divorce at the minute, the arguments with me, a lot of it was down to her being fearful, right? Because people, that, you know, there's two types of communication, either a loving communication, which is obvious, I love you, it's all nice, or it's a cry for help. So when someone says, fuck you, I hate you, they're really saying, love me more, help me, whatever it is, right? So we don't hear that at the time. We're like, what? Fuck me, fuck you, you know, how dare you? But that's really what it is. So once I understood that and I stepped back from the situation, and again, all the coaching's helped me do that, I understood, okay, she's scared of where she's going to live. She's never really worked. How's she going to pay the bills? So because I've had success, because I've had the money, I was able to kill part of that issue that made a relationship with me and her much better. Right, I was able to provide, to buy them a house, to give her money, to do stuff that makes her calm and settled, which means she's better for him. They're in a nice house. They're driving a nice car. Everybody's safe and everybody's taken care of. Okay, and that required me to step up to be more, which is, like I said at the beginning, I think I'm in a more of abundant mindset, and I back myself to grow whenever I need to, basically, whenever I want to. So that was that. In terms of then moving on, then how I engage with him, it's what I can teach him rather than what I can buy him and give him. So a lot of what I've learned along the way isn't just about spoiling my kid and buying him stuff. And of course, I went through things of doing that. As a young kid, he's been on private jets, he's been on yachts, he's been on helicopters, he's been God knows how many different countries. He's been in business class and first class, and And those were the things that I suppose at a younger age where he was coming with us, right? Now, like if he wants to be on a computer, he's got to give me a push-up for every minute that he wants to be on a computer. So he's understanding he's got to earn things, right? When we play different games, it's like we'll play chess, for example. It's like these are things that I can engage with him and bond with him on, and I think they're the things that's going to make. I'm obviously not there with him 7 days a week. I'm only seeing him 2 to 3 days a week, but it's the quality time rather than the quantity of time. And how we create incredible experiences. I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to work day in, day out in an office or, and which other parents that have got certain jobs, they're away from their kids by necessity, not by choice, right? I understand that I'm generally free. I can move my time around, and then within that, I can create magical experiences. And so I took him to last December, just gone. We went to Lapland. That was like a 15 grand holiday. I just came back from being with one of my coaches and mentors in the US, and I took him over there to play with their kids. And I wanted to get him exposure to these things. He even comes and sits in seminars and stuff with me. And even if he's like colouring or do whatever, but all that good stuff is going in his ears. These are I read a lot. I've learned a lot. The age from 0 to 7, my son's 8. The age between 0 and 7 is where his, if you like, default mind is shaped the most. Mm. Right. And so I want to give him as much chance of being as expansive as possible, So yeah, and I look, and again, the thing that I learned from him, and it's not, by the way, it's a two-way street, because what a kid will, if you're a parent and you'll know this, and especially at this particular age, probably before they're teenagers, there's so much unconditional love and happiness and playfulness within a child that it can really remind us what life's about. Because, listen, there's these videos of memes where like the guy's like chasing money or something and literally getting older and then falls in a grave. And it's like, what's the point? So I'm somebody from a long time ago that I understood, why do I want financial freedom? And I'm not the richest person in the world, by the way. I've had a level of success. There's people that earn my whole wealth in probably in a week, right? Way more successful than me. But success isn't just about money. It's about living the life that you want to live. And I live that way. And because I'm programmed that way already and I'm about experiences, I carry that forward to my relationship with my son.
Mm. And so was there ever a time where you feared not being able to be present in his life? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So when I first moved to Dubai, my wife, we were married at the time. She didn't want to come to Dubai, so she wanted to stay in Spain. And I kind of felt like I had to move to Dubai because of tax and stuff like that. So that was the first time I left the house, because even though we were separated, we were living in the same house. And I remember when I left, I mean, these are like killer moments for me. Mm. And I'm a freedom orientated guy, by the way. So I love the ability to make decisions. So when I can't change something, I'm really like that hurts me. And I remember I moved over to Dubai and they were living in Spain, and I would fly back every few weeks to see my son for a couple of weeks. And then there were times when his teeth were coming out or he was in pain, and they would call me, and I'm at the other end of the world and I couldn't get there, and he's like crying on the phone, and I hated that. But I think that, between my ex-wife and myself, we've managed a great relationship. We have spent a lot of time. They now live in Dubai. I've moved them over here, and I see my son regularly. I've got a great relationship. I mean, look, my son, even at 7 years old, he knew my phone number off by heart. I'm at a place now, actually, not stepping back, but I know whoever would speak to him, he just feels so loved and so empowered, that I don't want to overly parent him where I'm putting my beliefs on him. I want to give him the empowering things, but I also listen, I'm not trying to make a carbon copy of myself. He doesn't need to necessarily go and be an entrepreneur and do all the things that I do, but he might be a creative. He might be a musician. He might be a football player. He can do whatever he wants to be. I just want to give him the tools, which I feel like I've done at this point already anyway, to know that he's empowered to whatever he wants to do, whatever he decides to do, he can switch on the switch to be disciplined and go further than where all the average people are going to stop, so he can really achieve his goals, because most people give up early, and to know that he's loved unconditionally.
And so if there's any entrepreneurs who are listening into this, or maybe just, it can even be a 9-to-5er, how would you say, as a busy guy who has a lot going on, if that's how they relate, they can show up for their child most effectively?
here's what I'm going to do. I want to try and give you a couple of minutes in what I would do with a client, which I do with my clients, right? And it's going to give you some clarity. So number one, clarity is power, and you've got to be intentional. And if there's one word to remember, it's intentional. Okay. So look, what I get all of my clients to do is break down their whole life into health, wealth, and relationships. Okay. And then make 3 to 5 goals in your health, in your wealth, and in your relationships. Okay. Now let's just, and then what you want to do is break down your day and chunk parts of your day that serve each thing. So for example, for health, it could be hitting the gym and meditating early morning, 2 to 3 hours. I'm making this up. Wealth could be doing your business and having intentional goals within your business. And then relationship could be whether you're hanging out with friends, hanging out with your kids, doing stuff with your partner, your significant other. Okay. Could be family relationships, could be whatever. Once you understand those things, now we're intentional. See how easy that you could write that down in the space of half an hour to an hour, you know everything. Now you've got to find then key things that you can connect on. If we just fast forward to relationships, okay? And if it's with their kids, 9 to 5, it doesn't make a difference, right? Because 9 to 5 means they can still go to the gym in the morning, they can do their work 9 to 5, travel time, whatever. They're going to come home. They can spend 1 or 2 hours a day with their kid or with their partner, whatever the case may be. Now, once you get intentional, you go, right, how am I going to have the best time with this person? So then you start to think, what does this person like doing? Right, so let's go for our kids. Right, what's important to them, depending on how old they are? Maybe they love playing football. Hey, maybe we can spend 30 minutes going to the park. I'm going to get back. I'm going to finish work at 5. I'll get back home by 6. Have something to eat. Maybe we'll go to the park at 7 till 7:30 or 7 till 8 and kick a ball around, for example. Maybe I'll take them to watch a football match. Maybe I can pre-put the tickets for the weekend, and I'll take them to watch a football match. It's understanding. Once you write it down, and clarity is everything. And you put intention behind it, not just, oh, well, I'm back from work, I'm tired, we'll put the TV on, I was next to my kid for a couple of, but you start to think, how do I create magic moments? And you start to think intentionally, what do they like? What's important to them? So, or like, for example, like my son right now loves Roblox, and all these like kids are on Roblox now, right, of that age. So, okay, right, if he wants to do something with Roblox, okay, how do I give him that gift where he can do that? How can I either enjoy it with him? I flipping hate this stuff, but I can do anything for half an hour, and it's quality for him, right? But then if I think as a parent, how do I want to be a good parent and teach him how to earn something? How do I assign a task? So yes, you can do that. Yes, you can be on this. They've got this admin abuse stuff, right? Okay, before you do that, you need to do X, Y, and Z. So now I'm teaching him, I'm empowering him. I'm teaching him some skills of earning. And then he can go and have the joy he wants. And then again, creating quality moments of with his friends as well, and just being that fun dad. But it's all about intention and laying out. And again, if it's, I'm talking about from a son's perspective, it could be a girl's perspective. It could be, what mums can do with their daughters, or what dads can do with their daughters. And it's the same thing. If she likes playing with Barbie or going shopping, a dad on the weekend go, right, on Saturday, honey, for 4 or 5 hours, we're going to the mall. And that's torture, by the way, for men, right? But it's a torture you do, and the smile on my daughter's face, right, is worth everything. Yeah, so there's things you can do, and the same goes with partners, by the way. Like if a man wants, how do you achieve so much in the same 24? We've all got the same 24 hours. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be focused, and depending on your resources and what you can do. If I sit there and I'm with my girlfriend and I write down all the things that she loves doing, I create a menu of 10 things that I know she loves. Can be going to the cinema, going to the theatre, going out for certain dinners, going to a favourite restaurant, going for walks on the beach. Right, there's my menu. I can literally program it in on a Saturday or Sunday. Go, right, Monday we'll do that, Tuesday we'll do that, Wednesday right, now I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. I'm going to finish at 7, and then from 7:30 till 10 is our time, as an example. Or it could be 2 days a week. It could be date night, But all of these things, living with intention, is just how you achieve more, where everyone struggles. Because again, it comes down to coaching, right? We said at the very beginning, but everybody's in their head, and there's so much noise, and there's not enough intention, there's not enough clarity, there's not enough of a plan, And it doesn't have to be so regimented, right? There's a lot of flexibility and enjoyment in that. Like if I said I'm going to take my daughter to the mall for 5 hours, there's a lot of flexibility within that. Well, I just know those 5 hours are blocked out for quality time.
Incredible. Great tool. So some of the listeners might want to connect with you. Maybe they want coaching with you. Maybe they want to learn more about what you do, how can they do that? And you've got a podcast too, so maybe they want to listen to your podcast.
Yeah, and you were a guest on it as well. Yeah, so I hear you on it. So the podcast is Deciding to Thrive, and it's on Spotify and YouTube at the minute. All my social media is Dan Banks Nachmias. So I know we were speaking about this before, but it's NACHMIAS. So it's all one word, Dan Banks Nachmias. And I'm on Instagram. I'm a website. Everything's there. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Dan.
It's been really fun. It's been quite a varied,
very varied conversation.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.